Hey, what's going on, you guys? And welcome back to API, where we are exploring authenticity, purpose, and innovation. Now, look, I know y'all have heard a lot about cryptocurrency and maybe blockchain, but if you haven't heard those words for some reason, okay, then maybe you've heard of Bitcoin, maybe you've heard of Ethereum, maybe you've heard of XRP, maybe you've heard of every single type of coin that somebody has discovered on these different decentralized exchanges. I'm saying these words because these are words that you're going to want to take heed to and learn about as we come into this new financial system, especially if you plan on maybe even building something or creating an idea or dealing with a new company that may be providing a service to you and they're saying, hey, we're on the blockchain, this. You want to know, what is this blockchain thing really about? Well, wait no further. Today, we're going to do like a blockchain intro 101, right? But first, I really want to show you how it's reshaping what we think about trust in the digital age, because that's really what it's about. But for right now, every time you buy groceries, every time you visit a doctor or even vote, you're trusting an invisible system to keep your information safe and accurate. But what if I told you there's a technology that could make these systems completely transparent, unhackable, and owned by no single company or government? All right, what if? Then that technology, guess what? You got it. It's blockchain. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it might be the most important innovation since the internet itself. We're going to break down this through the API framework, how blockchain provides authenticity, serves its core purpose, and enables incredible innovation. All right, so stick around because we'll also share the best resources to start your blockchain journey, just in case if you decide, hey, you know, you may be young and you want to learn how to code, or how do I create my own token, or how do I develop on these blockchains, or even know what it even comprehends to even understand what somebody's trying to sell you, what somebody's trying to introduce you to. You'll just have a well rounded view and you'll have some resources, regardless of your technical background. All right? So I'm Allison Jones and I'm your host. Let's get into it. So let's start with authenticity. In our world of deep fakes, misinformation, and data breaches, how do you know what's real anymore? Traditional systems ask you to trust them. Banks say trust us with your money. Hospitals say trust us with your medical records. Heck, you even go to the store and you just spend your money, swipe your card, tap your phone, and everybody's saying trust us. Even the government says trust us with your votes, right? But blockchain flips this completely. It says don't just trust, make sure you can verify. All right. And so this is the birth of a trustless system. Now, this all started on October 31st of 2008 when someone using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a 9-page paper that would change everything. Nakamoto wasn't trying to create a digital currency. They were solving a fundamental problem. How do you create trust between strangers without a middleman, without somebody always trying to make money off of you? But even if they are, without them even being in your business about what you're exchanging money for, even if you're just trying to buy some groceries, it doesn't matter. You should have that type of privacy, right? Of course. So imagine I have a digital dollar without a bank keeping track. What stops me from spending that same dollar twice? This is called double spending problem, or the double spending problem. And it's why digital currencies seemed impossible before the blockchain. Here's where the name blockchain comes from. And it's beautifully simple. Think of it as a digital ledger book, right? The best way that you can think about this is even thinking about accounting ledgers. Basically just something that keeps up with all the numbers, all the transactions, right? But think of it as a digital ledger book, but instead of pages, we have blocks of information. Each block contains a summary of transactions, and they're chained together using math, right? So hopefully you like math. Hopefully you know somebody that likes math, and if they do, you should definitely let them know about this. And if you don't, well, here's something new, right? The return of math. So imagine each block is an envelope with a unique wax seal. If someone tries to change what's inside, the seal breaks, and everyone knows. But here's the genius part: this ledger isn't kept in one place, it's copied across thousands of computers worldwide. So, just to break that down even more, right? And actually, yeah, to break that down even more, basically, it's what's called nodes. And even when you think about the purpose of like even trees and the communication in nature, because a lot of what happens in technology is because somebody actually took the time to take time in nature or study some type of biology or just something natural to see how they could bring it um, into a real tool or into a real system, right? Because majority of these systems, we can literally look outside and see them working without anybody having to, it's like hands off. We don't even have to be in the process of anything that happens in nature, right? Unless we want to aid it to do better, or unless we want to cultivate it or create it within our own domain, right? So, so basically, you can see this with trees. Let's say you have a bunch of trees in a neighborhood, and within this neighborhood, one tree, you find out that they're gonna knock this tree down. Now, for the last 100 years, right? All these trees have been communicating. They've probably been sensing and sending information to this other tree, saying, "Hey, we heard they about to come for you. You know, they're getting ready to uproot you or chop you down. How are you preparing for this?" Now, also, this tree may be in the process of dying in a way, and maybe not too. That's the biggest part. But to get to the point, this tree has probably already sent all the information that it was storing to all of these other trees. So, and it may not even have to send that information, because as soon as one tree receives information, all the trees receive information. So each one has a copy of, say, you go to the tree and you whisper a password, you say, "Hey, my password is squirrel." Okay. It's going to send that password to all the trees so that all the trees can have a copy. So every time you go to any of the trees, they're going to know the password so that you can get access or they can access whatever it is, right? That's how you can think of the blockchain. There are different people around the world within these different blockchains, who are mining or controlling what they call nodes in their computers or in their data systems, however they have it set up. Every person within this group is pretty much acting as a node. So once you save a piece of information on the blockchain, there are multiple computers that will have that information and that will have it verified. So that way, if for some reason your computer goes down, it's okay. All you have to do is literally go to what they call an explorer, and you track that transaction, or you go to your receipts, in your email. There's so many ways nowadays because there's just so many tools. So that's just a slight way to think about it. You know, that way you can kind of connect the dots on both sides. So if someone wants to cheat, They need to somehow change the same information on thousands of computers simultaneously. It's mathematically impossible with current technology, right? If someone wants to say they want to go into a file that's already been placed on the blockchain and the way that happens is through a transaction. Everything happens as a transaction. So this data is now within this transaction showing that this was when we first did the notary, and somebody's like, oh no, 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 that's mine. Like, let's say land, for example. Let's say you bought some land and uh, somebody is deciding that they want to claim the land as their own, and they want to pretend like they bought it first. But you're like, wait, I got receipts. I bought this land first, right? You go into all the departments in the justice system saying, hey, I bought this land first. And they just like, I mean, but they got better proof. And they were like, what better proof? So then you're like, oh, aha, I have a moment. I put it on the blockchain, right? This transaction, I remember they told me that this would be stored on the blockchain. So now you go to that specific little email or you talk to the people who helped you in that deal to place it on the blockchain. Hopefully you have it saved somewhere, right? And we're going to get further into that in some other videos. But let's just say you have it saved somewhere. You go back in your email and you see, or you go back to that person and you see, oh yeah, here's the information. They send it to you. Yeah, this is the Explorer. All you have to do is go here and it shows all the information. It even has the receipt and all of it. It shows the certificate of land and everything. And this person who's trying to pretend like they bought the land before you or that they own it, they can't even go in to change this. Even if they went on the blockchain and said, oh, you got something on the blockchain, I'm going to put it on the blockchain. It's going to show the date. They can't even alter the date that it appeared on the blockchain, right? Like, there's no way they could change it to even happen before you did it. So even if they tried to finagle some type of way, it's stamped and approved on the day that they send it through the blockchain, right? So this is the way that, again, like they say, the double spending, like it can't happen twice, right? And this is very beneficial because there are people going through this, where somebody may come up and pretend like they own something or that something was theirs before it happened, before they just trying to claim something that's not theirs, right? But you have receipts now. Not only do you have receipts, you have a storehouse of information across the globe that is literally reflecting on the date and time the stamp of approval and certificate of your purchase, right? So, in a nutshell, that's the network of computers. All right, so let's get into some real world examples too, right? So none of this is theoretical, as I just explained, right? Walmart uses the blockchain to track food from farm to store, right? When there's an E. coli outbreak, instead of telling everyone to avoid all romaine lettuce nationwide, they can identify the exact contaminated batch in like 2.2 seconds instead of 7 days. Right. So what that means is instead of them just sending out a mass outbreak, right, they can literally pinpoint because it's stored on the blockchain from farm to store or just the entire process from the time the person pulls the lettuce out of the ground and they put it in a cart, and it's like the entire process is on the blockchain, right? And even up to the moment when they can identify that contaminated batch. All right. So these are just examples, but it's really happening. We just don't know it because who's on the news saying Walmart tracked E. coli outbreak on this and that blockchain? Most of the time, we're just hearing about the money side of things. So universities are also issuing blockchain verified diplomas that can never be faked, right? And why can it never be faked? Because it goes back to that same thing. Once it happens the first time, that's the original, right? There is no double spending. It can't happen again. The only way it will happen again is if for some reason you or that, like, if there was a, even if there was a mistake in the diploma and they say that they misspelled your name or something, the original will still be on there, and then you would still have to approve this happening. And once it's done, then it will just show in the updated date. It's not going to change the original. It's just going to show a new transaction with this certificate and the updated information, right? So again, the original will always be there. All right, so that's a big pro about using the blockchain. So diplomas can never be faked, right? Um, Luxury brands like Gucci use the blockchain to prove their products are authentic, right? Even pharmaceutical companies track medications to prevent dangerous counterfeit drugs. All right, the key insight here is that the blockchain doesn't ask you to trust any person or company. It uses math and distributed networks to create authenticity automatically. All right, so solving real world problems. Now let's talk purpose. Why blockchain exists and what problems it's actually solving. So again, the original purpose, when Nakamoto created the blockchain, or at least for what is now called Bitcoin, right? This was right after the 2008 financial crisis. The very first Bitcoin transaction included a newspaper headline that stated, "Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks." This wasn't random. It was a statement about the broken financial system. And it was an actual statement about something happening in real time, where someone knew information or they saw what was going on in the world, and they were like, this just don't make no sense. Why do we have to keep going through this? Why does somebody else continually have to, you know, um, use this fiat, which is the dollar, right? And control the system, or put people into crisis, all these different things, right? So they're trying to figure out, how can we solve this problem?